on YouTube. And once we get confirmation, we'll start the show.
I don't believe we're live yet on Facebook. This is going live in 2 minutes.
Oh.
Okay. On my end, it says live. So when I'm looking
It may
at
be because you're probably seeing the preview.
I'm on the back door. Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to start recording. Everyone will probably get a notification if you could just hit accept. And then I'm going to mute and turn off my video. So Nick Ruffalo, once we do go live at 7 o'clock on Facebook, if you just could give a quick, we're live. And then Darah, Alana, it's straight to you to start, okay?
Okay.
All right. Break a leg.
Hey there, can you remember a time where like maybe you wanted to intern somewhere and like you just really wanted it so bad and nobody would ever give you a shot?
I do.
I had an intern who came to the salon. She was a young lady with disabilities and went to 12 or 15 places and nobody would take her on.
That's terrible.
Definitely.
That is absolutely terrible.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
So I'm Alana Gibbs with my sister, Darah Thompson, and this is a Valid Podcast.
And we have a great show for you today. We are going to get down and dirty.
Oh, and maybe a little fired up.
Yep. Because we're talking about employment options for people with disabilities, or sometimes the lack thereof of employment.
So who's on with us today?
So John Miller, our reporter, he is going to interview Mary Niederberger. She wrote 2 amazing articles, and they're up on the Unabridged Press website.
Are they live now?
They are live, and there'll be a third one coming out on Thursday.
Okay.
It's about, during the pandemic, lots of folks have lost their internship, and it's about how people with disabilities are losing their internship, and they already have other challenges.
Wow.
Yeah. We also have some of our great analysts.
Oh, who's here?
Dr. Josie Badger.
Josie.
We love her. And we also have Chaz Kellem.
All right.
I know, we're really excited. It's going to be a really good show today. So stay tuned. Right now, we are going to throw it to John.
Thanks, guys. I'm John Miller, a middle-aged, on the young side, white man with a beard and a gray shirt. So as you guys pointed out, employment is a huge topic right now. And in a world where technology should seem to be a great equalizer, unfortunately, people with disabilities still face obstacles in the workplace. And according to the Department of Labor, only 20% of people with disabilities were employed in June, which is less than 1/3 the rate of people without disabilities. And we're joined here today by Pittsburgh-based journalist Mary Niederberger. Mary, you recently profiled a Pennsylvania woman with disabilities named Ambria Bates, who lost a big internship opportunity, partly because of COVID. Can you describe yourself first and then tell us more about her and your story?
Sure. I'm an older white woman on the older side. And I'm a longtime journalist covering issues mostly involving education and equity and social justice.
Now, what can people with disabilities bring to the workforce that other people can't, in your opinion?
Well, they can bring all the same things that everybody else can bring to the workforce. I mean, I think that's the point. Joyce Bender, who runs an employment agency for people with disabilities, said that, employers started to look toward her clients when the job market wasn't flush with people and they were an untapped source of employees. And then they found that, they are just as capable, they are just as talented, they are just as intelligent. And Joyce says that they actually are better employees because they're so appreciative of having a job, that they go above and beyond, and they show up and they're there and they're excited about working.
Now, your story, which ran on Unabridged Press, was really interesting, about a woman named Ambria Bates. Can you tell us more about her and
Yes.
her trials trying to get an internship this spring?
Right. Ambria did a really successful internship last summer through the state's Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. And she graduated from college this year, and she had on her own lined up 2 other internships. One was with, I believe it was the state agency, and the other one was going to be with a private company. And as she was weighing which one she wanted to take, both of them canceled on her because of COVID. And she was not able to find anything else. In fact, she also lost her part-time job working at a hotel. So she was essentially unemployed for the whole summer.
And what's she doing now? Do you know?
Well, she used the time to, she had a real estate license, so she did the coursework to renew her real estate license. She started trying to search for a full-time job, and she's also says she has an entrepreneurial spirit. She's trying to create an app. She didn't tell me what the app was about, but she'd like to get it patented and marketed.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things I think about your research, is that you found that, according to the Department of Labor, that people with disabilities have a higher rate of entrepreneurship
Yep.
Than the average population. Can you tell us more about that?
They don't give statistics. I mean, I had a few bullet points that are going to come up in the next story about the job market, but they said based on their statistics in 2019, employed persons with a disability were more likely to be self-employed than those without disabilities.
And
Also, one of my sources, John Kemp, who is the CEO of the Viscardi Center, his center started a national center for entrepreneurship for people with disabilities for that very reason, figuring if they can't find jobs, they could create their own jobs.
And has technology leveled the playing field in the last 30 years? I mean, can people get jobs coding, for example?
So Joyce Bender's, her company started as a regular IT consulting firm, and then she ended up with a disability issue. And so then she converted over to placing people with disabilities. And in the beginning, that was a lot of what she placed, but now she's into other fields as well. I don't know if it's leveled the playing field, because I'm quoting John Kemp from the Viscardi Center, and my next story is saying, since the American with Disabilities Act was passed 30 years ago, employment among people with disabilities is only up about 1%.
Yeah,
So,
I'd love to learn more about why that is.
yeah, I've tried to explore that, and I can't find anything on it.
And now, and what about the impact of the shutdown? Like, I mean, most people are working from home,
Right.
and so we're all sort of without means to get around anyway.
And you would think that would have made things better because we're all sitting still in front of a computer,
Yeah.
but it didn't. What happened with all the internships is COVID shut us down so quickly. Here, the state agencies in Pennsylvania, the Viscardi Center with their national internship, the American Association of People with Disabilities, their internship program, their partners were in such a panic converting their own workplaces to a virtual environment that they just did not include the interns. I mean, they just found it easier to say, not this year, maybe next year. And so you would think it would have been kind of seamless to just bring the interns in with the rest of the working staff, but that didn't happen in a lot of cases, except for at Bender Consulting. They had 6 interns, and they brought them in on the virtual platform, and they are working this summer. But it seems like in general, that didn't happen. And that's what all the advocates are pushing for, hoping that probably not in the fall because it's too close, but by winter, that companies will be able and willing to bring in the same interns they would have at an in-person internship in a virtual setting.
Let's hope so. Finally, it's really important that we support businesses that hire people with disabilities. Can you point us towards any particular sector or even companies that have a good record of hiring people with disabilities?
From what I'm told, it's all across the board. I know here in Pittsburgh, Joyce Bender said Highmark, which is a big healthcare company, was one. I think the firm that here in Pennsylvania, only one college student was able to get a virtual internship. And I believe his company was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a company that does business with the state, but they on their website say that for every purchase you make, they make a donation to a group that advocates for the disabled. But in general, it seems like across the board. I mean, in my story today, the young woman was supposed to intern on Capitol Hill. And the Scardy Center, he does a lot of with the banking industry, and the students get placed in their jobs. That's the big devastation about these internships being canceled. The advocates all said that when internships work out, companies generally offer the students jobs. And so since the students couldn't do these internships this summer, they may have lost out on job opportunities unless they're young enough to come back next summer if we're up and running and do the internships, but that's the big loss.
Can you clarify what you were saying? Only one internship was offered?
I'm sorry, let me clarify this. In Pennsylvania, the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation started an internship program in they developed it in 2017, they ran it in 2018 and 2019, and they placed about 25 individuals, disabled college students with disabilities. It's state agencies or businesses that do business with state agencies. And this summer they had to cancel it because all of the sponsors canceled. They only placed one student with a company, but none of the state agencies took anybody. They also work with Centers for Independent Living. They didn't take anybody. The whole thing was shut down for the whole summer. So only one student got, and he was able to do a virtual internship.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for your work, and I look forward to hearing a lot more. It's such an important topic, one of the most important for people with disabilities. So thank you, Mary.
Yeah, and we want to give a shout out to Joseph Smith, who was our story advisor on this.
Can you explain what that means?
Joseph, our story advisors read our stories to make sure that we are not promoting ableism, and to make sure that we are correctly portraying situations. And his commentary on reading the story was just that there is so much more need for places of employment to hire people with disabilities because the cost of living is so high, and like all of us, they need health insurance, and there's just a great need.
Right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Before we move to the next segment, I'd like to let you know where A Valid Podcast comes from. This show and the All Abilities Media Project are a public-private collaboration. They are co-produced by Unabridged Press and the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University. That's in downtown Pittsburgh. Support for our work is provided by the FISA Foundation, the Pittsburgh Media Partnership, and other funders. You can learn more at avalidpodcast.com.
Hi, I am Darah Thompson. I am a fair-complected Black girl with crazy curly hair and blue glasses. And this is my sister, Alana Gibbs.
Hi, I am a brown-skinned Black girl with curly black hair today, and I'm rocking dark lips and a dark shirt. And we are going to bring on with us Dr. Josie Badger and Chaz Kellem. Hey guys, how are you today?
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Doing well,
Chaz,
doing well. I'm hanging in there. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
We're very excited to meet you, Chaz. We've heard a lot about you, and I'm stoked to finally meet you.
Well, good. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
So, let me start off. So I own a salon, and A few years back, I had an organization who reached out to me about taking on an intern, and I had never done that before. I never really even thought about it. But then she explained to me that it would be a young lady with disabilities, and I really didn't even ask like what was her disabilities. It didn't really matter because I was like, hey, let's do this. Let's make it work. And come to find out, she had gone to several different salons looking to be an intern, and nobody would take her on just because she had disabilities. Even though she was being paid, um, they just wanted no parts. And I just could not understand how that was a thing. And to me, it just wasn't okay. So, Josie, I know you were the champion for, I want to work. What's Drop some knowledge for us.
Drop some knowledge. That makes me think of Hamilton. So,
yay!
yeah. So, I'm going to drop some knowledge here. So, we know for a fact that people with disabilities are one of the lowest employed populations in the world. We know that people with disabilities work at one job longer than most individuals and take less time off. But that doesn't equal to the employment rate of people with disabilities. And so I have had the privilege of working on legislation to improve the employment outcomes of people with disabilities. And that sort of sounds jargony and boring, but it's been amazing because when I was growing up, I had this like fictional idea of reality. I thought, oh, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to get a great job and my disability is just going to kind of float away or something. I'm not sure how that went. But as I got older, I was like, oh shoot, like this still stays with you, doesn't it? And so I realized that some of my career goals had to change, but as I was accepting the changes in my reality of jobs, I also had to accept the realities of the potential limitations that other people would put on me. And that's not a lack of my ability, but the perception of people with disabilities. And so, hashtag I Want to Work has created bills to make sure that young adults in high school who have disabilities get paid job experience. It's created employment first throughout the state. And now we're working to allow people with disabilities to continue to receive medical assistance while getting a job and getting paid more because it's such a big deal. I'm a person with a significant disability. I use a power chair, a ventilator, 24-hour care, and I cannot afford to be successful because my care is about $250,000 a year. It would not be worth me getting a job, even with my doctorate, that wouldn't provide that care, which isn't covered by insurance. So,
that is heartbreaking.
That is, but thank you for your work. Like, thank you so much for being out there and working.
Thank you.
You are definitely a successful beast right there. I mean,
yeah.
Gosh.
And you're still like an amazing success, regardless of like financial. You're
thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really, being disabled, you learn to be pretty frugal too. So I'm real good with the coupons.
Yes. Girl, I know. Girl, I know. I know.
All right. I love me some Aldi coupons. They're amazing. Yeah.
All those apps to help me save money and read my circulars like I'm an old lady. Yep.
That's right. Raccoon and I are buddies,
Yes, totally.
Right.
Chaz, you want to hop on and tell us some of the challenges you may have faced and ways you've overcome them?
Because like word on the street is like you're a local celeb.
Yeah, you're pretty awesome.
Well, thank you again. Thank you for having me. I'm a Black male, middle age, sort of representing wearing blue. Really honored to be here. First of all, let me say that and drop some knowledge. Well, first, I want to echo everything that Josie said. Right? It's hard to kind of follow Dr. Badger, but I'm glad to be here today. So this topic is something I'm passionate about. A couple of things I wanted to share. The disability community is creative. We have continuously been creative on how we approach our challenges and obstacles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a shorter dude, so when I go grocery shopping, I get a broom or something to knock stuff off of a high shelf. Or how we get our wheelchairs into the car or a van. We're just a creative group of people that's determined. So that I think is something to think about when you think about internships. I also think it's important to know that we are no longer a community with our hand out. We come educated, we come dedicated, we come committed, and we're going to do the job to the best of our ability.
We come to play. We're not just
preaching.
We're doing
Preach. Preach.
So I believe that diversity overall makes us better, and that has to include people with disabilities, right? So we will bring that creative edge to problem solving in the workplace, and that's only going to make the institution that we're at better. So that's very important to think about, right? That we creative edge. We think outside the box, which again, even right now, even before, is very, very important to think about. I also want to be honest and say that the struggle is real. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, right? This is not going to be fairy tales and leprechauns and all other good stuff. This is real and honest.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to know that our community is built on resiliency, that we are hungry for those opportunities. The example that you shared earlier, that person was told no, but they kept fighting through. I like to use an analogy of an underdog. When you put a dog in a corner, that dog fights, claws, whatever they have to do to get out. That's community in essence. We will continue to fight and claw until we get the opportunities that we want or need in order to create a life that we want. And it's important that we think about the internship process and thinking about the opportunities that we want. It's not necessarily about what people want for us. It's about what we want and what it is that we're going to get to obtain our ultimate goals. We just have to stay hungry. We have to stay passionate, and we have to look out for each other, right? You mentioned person came to your shop. You're just like, why not? I'm gonna look out for somebody. And that is a human characteristic that has to extend into our disability community. So we have to look out for each other. Dr. Badger and I talk about this a lot. We are friends. We're colleagues. We're associates. But it's about creating an environment for the next generation after us. What can we do as young professionals, as educated professionals, with a voice, with resources, with a network to make it better for other people? So that's. I mean, I can be going on and on in this. I'm gonna pause.
That's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is huge.
Just some things to think about.
Yeah.
Because that goes back to what we've been saying all season. Just be kind and look out for people. That's all people want. Just be nice, Open the door when people walk through. Don't just, go through and close it. That's just rude. Where's your home training?
Yeah.
And, you can be selfish and be like, I want to employ people with disabilities because we're some of the best workers. It's not just about giving a job because it's a nice thing. We are darn good workers. And so employers are benefiting from us being there too.
Right.
That is true. That's true. What do you think are some of the systematic barriers that we come across, and how do we overcome some of those? So you touched on some before about being creative and helping others, but what do you think some other ones are?
I'll turn to you, Chaz.
Great question. The list is long. I really believe it starts with people's minds and perspectives, right? We have to continue to work together to change people's minds. And in order to do that, I simply believe it's simple, and that's just to keep showing up. I tease my friends and say, I'm not the tallest or the strongest or the smartest in the room, but any given day, I'm going to try to outwork the next person to my left or my right. So I think we just have to keep showing up to change people's minds and people's perspectives. I think legislation, which I'll let Dr. Badger tackle, has to continue to change and continue to be influenced by the people that the legislation is impacting. We have to continue to have a voice in that. Again, let Dr. Badger tackle that one a little bit more. And I think some of our larger institutions, corporations, have to let us in, right? They set the tone. Unfortunately, a lot of things are governed by money. So if some of our larger corporations and institutions may change and committed to what we're talking about today, my hope and belief is that others will follow. So we just need a couple of change makers, and there are some. There are some great ones out there doing some good work. Highmark, John Eagle, and others. But we need more people on that train to keep making the progress. And I believe that others will follow. And this is not rocket science, folks. This is not hard to do. We just need an opportunity to showcase our abilities. And I believe a couple people give us that chance. The opportunities are endless from there.
Why do we think people are so scared of taking on workers with disabilities? Like you said, it's not rocket science. Just okay, if you can do the work and you're going to do a good job, I'm going to take the person who's going to do a good job. I mean, as a business person, that's what I want. That's what I tell my employees. Come in, do your job, collect your check, and go home.
Right. So I think that, well, let's be real here. It's after 7. No more Dr. B. I'm just Josie. And I forgot to say that I'm a white girl, also in a blue shirt, but it stabbed me to the core when Chaz said middle age, and we're about the same age. So I am still a young woman.
That's right, girl. That's right. You are.
Right.
Young
I
and
will be till I'm
feisty.
70. But
Flawless.
and it's attitude, but just as Chaz said, so much is attitude and the lack of awareness. We have been taught through media, not this podcast, but other media and movies, and lack of shared history that we own, that is ours, that's real. People just don't know about the disability community and our strengths, and are sort of afraid of what they don't know, which is human nature. And so, we have to be out there changing that narrative.
So
People are afraid of what they don't know,
that's true.
right? People, and that's just everything, right? Like people are afraid of simply what they don't know. And to be honest, a lot of folks, especially those with hiring power, right, may have limited experience interaction with a member of the disability community. And we also, over the years, have broadened our definition of the disability community, who falls into that. Josie and I both have physical disabilities, but there's a whole broad span that fits into this conversation. Right. So education about what disability means, about the abilities of those in the community, and really those with higher abilities and power need to just continue to educate themselves and really just interact with members of our community, and minds will hopefully change.
Josie, as a lobbyist, what am I going to say? Like, how do we get these things passed and changed? And what more can we do to get people on the right page? Because, I mean, I feel like that, being scared of what you don't know, that's a little bit of bull. But, come on. I mean, for the most part, people are people. You might look different, you might be short, tall, wide, whatever, but you're still a person with the same feelings. And what the heck are you scared of?
Yeah, I don't get it either. But I've found some people that don't get it. But it's about that tenacity, about being feisty and getting our voices out there. And it's not about starting a fight between Republicans and Democrats. It's not about right and left. It's about humans. And so for so many of the legislative pieces that I've worked on, it was about sharing my story or helping others to share their story. And so most of the legislators that I've worked with truly understood and supported people with disabilities and what they needed to be successful, to live, to work. But they had no idea the barriers that were out there. And I think as people in their community, we assume that people who are writing bills and are involved in the government just know this information. But that is what our job is as constituents, as people in their legislative areas, to teach them what it means to be a person with a disability in their region.
What about how can you speak on for people with disabilities that are afraid that they can't be successful, walking that thin line between, do I gamble and work, and maybe not be able to afford my health insurance, or do I work less and try to get on Medicare and Medicaid?
That what we're doing is a crime, in my estimate. We are
It is.
spending thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars each year to educate people with disabilities from kindergarten through a doctorate. And yet we're saying you need to put a price cap on your opportunities. You have, I have to look and make sure I'm not making too much money, because of exactly what we talked about earlier. And so, I will never advocate or push someone to take a job that they might lose their life sustaining benefits that allow them to get that job in the first place. But it is our responsibility to teach legislators and people how successful we are, how successful our work can make them to change these limits. And I have this really exciting program that I wanted to mention to you guys. So Family Values at Work and Women and Girls Foundation, we all work on legislation for paid family leave. And I recently received funding to develop this TRAIL program. And TRAIL is training regional advocates to impact legislation. And this will allow me to train individuals across the state of Pennsylvania about talking to legislators as people with disabilities, and speaking up and making a difference, because I do believe that each person's voice has to be heard. So if you're interested, we'll figure out what to get the info. I think you could probably comment on the Facebook post.
Josie, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
When do people need to apply by?
So this special deal for tonight, I'll extend the registration. So I'm gonna extend it because it's kind of short turnaround till the 21st of August. So that gives over a week. But person with disability who believes in advocacy, we want you, because we have to change the minds of people who are controlling our ability to be successful.
Yeah. How long is the training?
It will be going through April. So there'll be one training September through April. We have sort of a stipend for participants. But it's really the ultimate outcome is so that every person knows how to talk to a legislator and get their voice heard to make a difference.
And I'm sure you don't want slackers coming to your program.
No,
you want the fighters.
Slackers.
You want those underdogs who are ready to scrap it out, take their shot.
Right. We are not supporting dog fighting. However, we want them, the scrappy ones who are going to get in there and fight for our community.
Yeah, so if you're interested, just put it in the chat.
That's
and
right.
Josie will find you and reach out.
I'll connect you. Yeah.
That's right. She will hook you up so you can start dropping knowledge.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
Boom. Mic drop.
I love that. So Chaz, what kind of stuff do you have?
Real quick, Josie, can you shout out your email, or is it okay if we put a link to your
why
email?
Not?
Shout it
why
out.
Not? I want everyone to have my contact info. So it's my first and last name, Josie, Josie, Badger, BADGER at gmail.com. So, I mean, if you look at just my name, I'm scrappy. Honey badgers are fierce.
That's right.
Fierce. Right? So,
That's right.
Just drop me a line. I'll connect you.
Awesome. We're excited about it.
Right, for sure. So Chaz, what kind of stuff do you have going on?
Well, how am I supposed to top that?
I mean,
No, you are the
sorry.
man,
I
Chaz.
mean, how can I top
things.
that? I mean, the only thing I would like to add on is that I wish there was a program like Josie has developed for me 5-10 years ago, right? I had to make a lot of mistakes in order to get that knowledge that Josie is preparing and going to share with those participants in that program. Because we all have to do our part, right? I mean, my background in advocacy made me realize very early that legislators often reply to money or votes, right? So being at the disability community, in many cases, may not have the large amount of money to donate. We do have a vote, right? And we have a voice. So we need to use both of those. So that's my little plug to make sure that everybody votes, register to vote by absentee if you need to, vote by mail. Just make sure you utilize that your vote, and then piggyback off of what Josie mentioned, join your program and use your voice. So that would be what I would really think about. And I also think it's important that I mentioned off of what Josie said about the whole money work thing. Do something, right? Like if money is you're maxed out and you can't make it because of a variety of reasons, there are many ways to stay busy, active, to diversify your portfolio of knowledge and experience. Do something, right? If you love animals, be an animal rights activist. If you love holding babies and rocking babies to save Children's Hospital needs people to interact with babies. I mean, there are many opportunities to do something. And maybe now COVID maybe has messed some of these opportunities up, but there are still ways to get engaged. So I just want people to do something with their time, their resources, and their knowledge. And that ties to your fiery comment earlier that I want us to do something.
Right.
Right.
Would you guys mind maybe sharing a moment where you had to get fiery? So like obviously you're not gonna, be tussling with people, but like, where you had an opportunity and you had to fight for that opportunity.
That's a good question.
Yeah, Chaz, go ahead. You're feistier.
I'm feisty. I don't have a filter. Like so that's what I'm gonna say. I don't my filter sometimes.
Okay, Chaz.
I think being a Black male also has led me to have to advocate for some things that are facing us as Black people in this country. So I have a trouble defining if somebody's being, racist against me or discriminating against me because I have a disability. And that's tough by itself. So I find myself oftentimes speaking up in small times and in large times because I value them equally. The first time somebody overlooks me at a restaurant, or the first time that someone talks louder to me just because I have a disability and they think I can't hear. I advocate in those small times too. And I also advocate in the large times, right? I use my vote. I follow. I'm on a board of Achieva, and they often will have opportunities for us to call our legislators. I take activation in those opportunities to call and write my legislators. So I think we have to do our part, small and large, to advocate and make change for this community.
Thank you.
And let me add, so I'm one of those angry criers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Where you're like, I hate you, and you're like crying and you can't get your point across. That's me. And so, me fighting is real ugly. And so I've realized that if you don't want me somewhere, then I'm going to get my party and take it elsewhere. And so, maybe that's not always the right situation, but as a person with disability who has not had access to every job opportunity or internship, that meant creating it. And people with disabilities tend to be entrepreneurs, like Chaz was mentioning. We are creative because we had to be. And so, many of us have created businesses. I think both of you ladies have. And we've had to figure out how to do a job that was technically thought about for a person without a disability, figure out how we can do it just as well, if not better. And so, it's so important to take what we have and do what we can to make a difference.
Yeah. Josie, before we go, can you tell us the name of your newest program one more time?
Absolutely. So it's called Trail, and it's called Training Regional Advocates to Impact Legislation. But once again, you can contact me, Josie Badger, at gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We really want to thank you both for being on the show today. We love your fierceness.
Lots of knowledge, mic drops.
We love it. We love it. We love it. So thank you both for joining us today. It was wonderful. And to our listeners, thank you for listening. This is a Valid podcast. Please be gentle to yourself and to others.
A Valid podcast is produced by Unabridged Press and the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University. Our hosts are sisters Alana Gibbs and Darah Thompson. And from the Center for Media Innovation, Nick Ruffalo engineered our stream. Our producers are Francesca DeBecco and me, Nick Tomarello. A Valid podcast's executive producers are the CMI's Andrew Conti and from Unabridged Press, Jennifer Shveta-Jordan. You can listen to this and other episodes of A Valid Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google, and Spotify every Friday morning. We hope you'll leave your feedback in a rating. And for more info, go to avalidpodcast.com.